The following podcast may contain material not suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised.
In 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, the world turned to its leaders, both national and local, for information and guidance. Ohio was one of the states leading the charge to flatten the curve and keep its people safe. Dr. Amy Acton, the state health director under Governor DeWine, dubbed the real MVP of Ohio's coronavirus response, became an overnight celebrity. From daily appearances on our TVs,
today we are reporting 2,547 cases of this morning,
to Halloween costumes, TikTok videos, and even YouTube parodies like this Laverne and Shirley take on her and the governor's work by Dave Stofka of Stofka Creative.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet apart. Stay home. Stay home. How's about we coordinated?
we're gonna do it.
But as COVID progressed into the mid-year, with little end in sight, people around the state and country became restless. The divide began to deepen. Misinformation and conspiracy theories took center stage. Then came the death threats, kidnapping plans, even constant protests at her front door. Fast forward a few years, Dr. Acton is running for governor of Ohio for the 2026 election. Her grassroots campaign promises real leadership and a focus on the issues we all face, without political agendas or dark money driving the ship.
I am running for governor because people in this state are struggling, they feel unseen, and I refuse to look the other way while bad actors, special interests, keep taking this state in the wrong direction on nearly every measure.
Especially when her opposition is the notorious billionaire Vivek Ramaswamy, the movement amongst Ohioans from across the political spectrum has people saying, "Won't you be my governor?"
Ready or not, we are going there. Taboo topics are back on the table.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Going There podcast, Season 3. Today, a wish has been granted. We got a guest that we have been trying to get since the very beginning of Season 1 of this podcast. Dr. Amy Acton, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm honored to be here. We were joking around a little bit coming in that I know hearing my voice, even for you, might bring back a memory or two. I just want to acknowledge that. Takes us back, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so right now you are in the midst of an early campaign for Ohio governor.
Yes. Well, we're 9 months in now, running for governor. I'm so proud. We've been traveling everywhere in the state of Ohio, and I do mean everywhere. Truthfully, I've been on the road for almost 2 years, actually, listening deeply, learning from Ohioans. And we're going places I think a lot of folks haven't been in a while. And you can't travel and listen. You can't lead a state through something like the pandemic. It's sort of like having 11.7 million patients and not fall in love with the people of this state.
And the people of this state fell in love with you. And maybe for some people it was a love-hate relationship. So The one thing that we're so tired of talking about on this show is COVID, because it was like we started this in the heat of the pandemic. We were towards the end of 2020. It was such a tumultuous time. We're in the weird aftermath, but I want to spend a tiny bit of time back there in 2020. So you were the state health director.
Yeah.
And for those of you who listen or watch outside of Ohio, Ohio was really leading the charge with not only fighting back against the epidemic, but like really setting in place the rules that kept people safe and got us opened back up faster. And I think that was mostly you and your team, right?
Well, the truth of it is, it was all Ohioans, actually, but I'm so proud. It was an honor and a privilege to lead in a moment like that. None of us ever quite sees ourselves. And certainly, I always say I didn't imagine that a lot of folks would be watching me at 2 p.m. and on the Ohio News Network of all things. But I often say, by the end of it, we were sequestered, and not unlike being in this studio, it was just the governor, lieutenant governor, and me, and one camera, like the one I'm looking at now. So one dark circle, black lens, but you could absolutely feel everyone on the other side of it. I mean, that's such a rare moment. I need to say in Ohio, I'm so proud. We flattened the curve in this state. We saved a lot of lives. We did lead the country. I've even heard from other countries that followed our press conferences. But we also reopened earlier and got back to life and business as usual faster because we took swift and decisive action.
Yeah, because we actually did the right thing, because there were so many people. I won't go too deep into it, but I feel like we have to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right.
I feel like in the very beginning of COVID, and we talked about this a lot, I feel like everybody was in it together across the board, across the country, because it's like we can beat this. As Americans, I feel like we take some of our liberties very for granted, and it was like the inconvenience of not being able to do our daily lives or get our hair done, or people started to question, like, oh, is COVID even real? I mean, those people had something else. So as a doctor, as a fully informed, like the most informed person other than maybe a virologist on the topic, how disheartening was that to watch us go from we're all in this together to the misinformation battle that kind of came from it?
Well, I have to say, I led during the very early time, the first 6 months of the crisis. So I know what I experienced might be different than what folks experienced over 4 years, which is how long it lingered. Ohioans' first reaction was to help save one another.
Yes.
It was a privilege. People talk a lot about the hate and the vitriol, but the love was so much greater than the hate in this state. In my experience, even now going around all over our state, hearing stories of people on the front lines, hearing sadly about folks who have lost people, and everyone endured. Talking to business owners, talking to folks who ran schools and prisons and nursing homes. I can't say enough. No order I could have written would have flattened a curve. That's just a fact.
Right.
But what I actually envisioned was life rafts, like almost like the Titanic. When they couldn't get enough people in the boats, you're like, why couldn't you get more people in the boat? I had this feeling of if we led right, and in my case, and this is the way I lead in everything I do, I put a North Star out there of what we have to aim at. And I told the truth. This has been studied and by many people now, but they said two of the three things we did differently were, one, we told brutal, honest truth. So I grew up a little bit scrappy. I'm a big cards on the table person because you can't solve any really wicked hard problem, whether it's housing or people aging in place with dignity or childcare, any of the other things I need to be working on. If you can't all aim at something and know what ground you're standing on. I literally was wondering, at one point I Googled the word pandemic thinking, why doesn't someone name this?
Yeah.
What I've been teaching students for years of practicing global health. So by telling the truth, I was allowing you as a business owner, somebody running a hospital, a nursing home, a prison, schools, our families' lives. Every one of us had to lead in ways we never led before. But by having the truth, people could start to make decisions, and they did. The heroism knew no bounds in this state. The people flattened the curve. And then obviously by about mid-April, it began to get political again. And our very corrupt state house started using COVID as another special interest tool to give certain businesses something over another business. And the politics came back. Ultimately, as you know, I did step down from that position.
Yeah.
And I stepped down. Many people thought it was the protesters. The media kind of got it wrong.
Honestly, I think before researching it, my personal take on it was, this is one of the nice things I'll say about Mike DeWine. When people were attacking you, he was like, look, if you want to come at somebody, come at me. Do not come at her.
Right,
Which I thought that showed really good leadership. And so I thought it just became so much that not you stepped down because there was like fear of these people, but more the people around you were going, you've done everything you can, because at that point, everything had been put in place. But it turns out you stepped down because they essentially painted you into a corner and said, can you comply, right?
Yeah. I think, you were watching many things happening. Certainly, there were protesters. There were people legitimately protesting things that they had lost. I remember outside my house even, there was a mom who owned a hair salon and 2 daughters, and they were there because she was losing everything. But standing right beside them were groups that had been summoned. The President of the United States actually in April of 2020 said, activate and liberate.
Yeah.
And from the first day anyone saw me on TV, I already had executive protection because of threats that were being watched on the dark web. The group that ultimately was going to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Those kinds of activities were being aimed at the governor and I as well. So Governor DeWine. So I had that all along. And quite honestly, I wish I could have talked to that mom. To this day, I wish I could have gone outside my house and just asked her what was going on, because I was one of the biggest people advocating for how do we save small businesses? What do we do?
Right.
But I couldn't, because there were other people out there carrying guns. But by June, there was pressure coming from the State House, others in power, wanting what are quarantine orders, which are supposed to be used very seldomly, very specifically to protect lives, to be used in ways that weren't doing that. In fact, ways I thought would kill people and harm people. That was coming from the Speaker of the House particularly. This had been pressure that was building.
This was Larry Householder.
Yeah, Larry Householder. I actually said to the governor, I'll keep advising you. I want to keep doing this. I want to keep, but I couldn't sign my name. I couldn't go along with some of what was going on. So I didn't sign those orders. I did keep advising the governor on many issues in the years to follow.
Yeah, you left your official government post, but you were I think essentially the chief health advisor for the state?
Yes, and I never did that actually formally. The press got that wrong too. I didn't stay on in an employed way, but I did keep advising him.
Yeah.
And even on other issues that have come up in the years since. I'm very proud of the work we did together.
Yeah.
I think we did the right things, and it's hard to be a leader in that circumstance. And the governors, obviously, we all thought it would be run federally. This was a playbook that was passed president to president.
Yeah.
It wasn't managed that way. So the governors, to their credit, started helping one another. All the noise that we think about in politics fell away. But, when I didn't sign those orders, 2 weeks later, the Speaker of the House was arrested in the largest scandal in Ohio's history.
And that's saying a lot, because Ohio's had a few.
We've had quite a few.
You're from Youngstown, the famous Jim Trafficant. I mean, there's a lot of...
It goes deep, but I'm particularly concerned right now about the State House and what sadly is not serving the people of Ohio, and we continue to go backwards on nearly every measure in this state. We did receive a Profile in Courage award. Profile in Courage came from Carolyn Kennedy and Jack Kennedy, her son. We're in the library now, the JFK Library, but that award is based on JFK's book he wrote called Profiles in Courage, which he wrote when he was young, a young senator, about people who had to give up their jobs. And very often, too often in this world, people give up their lives for things that they have to take a stand on. It's not that you never feel fear in moments like that. I sort of want to correct, because I know the day we did the stay-at-home order, I said, I'm not afraid, I'm determined. And that's how I felt in that moment. I mean, I would have done anything. I wasn't afraid of anything if it would save someone's life.
Sure.
But the things that we're being asked to do right now, you and I, and the world we're living in, and the Ohioans I'm talking to, it's about taking a stand as people again, when these very corrupt special interests are taking over our way of life and our government.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you never feel fear, but that the root word for courage comes from heart. It means opening your heart to the suffering and the things you are seeing that you can't unsee. I'm running for governor because people are struggling in this state. They're doing everything right. They can't get any breathing room because special interests and bad actors keep taking the state in the wrong direction on every measure.
And that should be something that we can all agree on.
This is not a partisan statement I am making.
But I'm saying, like, people know I lean left, but I have friends and family all across the board.
Right.
And we'll be talking, and we're all saying the same thing. But as soon as you put a name to it, and it's like, well, no, not that person. And you can correct me if any of this information is wrong, but the former Speaker of the House, Larry Householder, he and Matt Borges, they were working on over $61 million bribe from First Energy for like $1 billion bailout through the HB6 bill.
Yes.
And when your opponent, Vivek Ramaswamy, was recently asked, he said, basically, he doesn't care about the past corruptions.
Yeah.
But how do you fix the now and into the future if you don't look at what's happened and what continues to happen?
What continues to happen. That's the big thing. You can't look the other way. The whole theme of my campaign, which comes from my childhood experiences, is that we have to refuse to look the other way when we see things that we can't unsee that are wrong. And sometimes it's hard to do. Let me tell you, I mean, I had a pretty rough childhood and a lot of abuse and neglect, a lot of children's services, frequent flyer kind of visits, and ultimately lived in a tent in the middle of winter, but was finally removed from that. And my life got a lot better. But I remember during really hard times that there would be adults and people who would like see bad things happening, but kind of And I think about that a lot in my whole career, because my whole career has been trying to prevent these bad things from happening and create a great quality of life for people. And I think people are scared. You know, you don't know what to do. And I think that's how, quite frankly, a lot of us feel right now. There's so much happening. It's so big and it's hard because you don't know how to do something about it. But the only way power differentials or bad things or corruption ever ends is if enough of us bystanders, us ordinary people, see something and refuse to look the other way. We grab arms with a couple other people, makes it a little safer, and we push back.
Yeah.
And that's the moment we're living in right now. And I just can't stand this. Like, I just don't care. I'm going to let all that corruption go. Right now, we're currently living where our corrupt state legislature literally did pay-to-play deals but didn't solve any of the 95% of problems that everyday Ohioans are begging us to work on. And when you say you have family on both sides of the aisle, I do, we all do.
Yeah, we all do. We're a very purple state.
Yeah, but when you really sit down, and I go everywhere in this state, and I talk to people on both sides of the aisle, and they're showing up in droves, they're all talking about the same stuff. It's nothing controversial. They're talking about the fact that there's no health care. In rural areas, you have to go an hour and 15 minutes to deliver a baby or have a cavity filled, or you have to work a second job off the farm to get health insurance. They're talking about medical debt that bankrupts you with one illness in your family. They're talking about our schools, which didn't get funded. In the bipartisan funding plan we had, did not get funded. And schools are the center of the way of life everywhere. They're talking about property taxes going up. How do you live and age with dignity in your home that you've had your whole life? They're talking about childcare and housing. They're talking about safety, but they're not talking about some border somewhere else. They're talking about your kid coming home from school. They're talking about, you know, going to church and something might happen there. And they're talking about being able to talk to your neighbor. People are talking about the same stuff. If anyone, I just wish everyone could have the experience I'm having, because they would realize that we are all talking about the same thing. But that's not what these politicians are running on. They're running on pitting us against one another. They're running on special interest deals for $600 million for a stadium. But they didn't take care of our health care, our schools, our jobs. They didn't do all the stuff we asked them to do.
Well, and on top of that, the people at the state level seem to be far more interested in making sure that the state stays red than it does anything else, which I don't care what color it is, just fix our problems. But when you gerrymander the hell out of everything that it can go a certain way, I'm not saying this as a Democrat, I'm saying this as an Ohioan, where they teed up multiple times different things, like they were going to try to make it easier for them to amend the state constitution, right? It failed. But every time it fails because the people speak up, then
Yes.
they've been trying to find new ways to do it. And in a state that's already been embattled with corruption,
Right.
I don't know. I think it comes down to, and when I got a chance to meet you for a few minutes a few weeks ago, I said, my biggest question for everyone, not just somebody running for a political seat, is what do we do about the informational divide? What do we do about the algorithm that is feeding people
Right.
not only what they think should be important, but the misinformation that comes along with it most often? Like that to me is, because you're right. If you got 8 people sitting around a table, we would talk. And if we say, just keep out any political jargon and rhetoric and just talk about what we're all feeling, every single person that I know has the right to be angry, stressed, and worried right now.
Right.
But it's where we point the fingers when it's time to solve
Right.
the problem that suddenly becomes such a divide that it's questionable if it's fixable.
Right.
And I think that's where some of the, I don't know if it's always apathy when people look the other way. I think it's exhaustion a lot of times.
That's what I'm saying. I think people, everywhere I go, on both sides of the aisle, people are longing for public servants again. They're longing for something kind of old school concept. It shouldn't sound old school. It should be the norm.
It should be
It just
exactly
should
what
be
it is.
business as we expect it to be. But they literally want people to solve problems instead of making them.
Isn't that such a
It's
crazy
such-
idea?
It's such a crazy idea. And the thing is, I'll be meeting with, county commissioners and mayors, and literally at this point with our state house, they are like, just don't hurt us anymore. Like they no longer can aspire. The state government, we have government because we gained 30 years life expectancy in the last century. You were born in 1900, like my grandfather, who came to this country to work in the steel mills in Youngstown. When you were born in 1900, as he was, you're expected to live to 48 years on average. In 1 century, we gained 30 years.
Yeah.
He lived to be 84 years old. But of those 30 years, only 5 came from what I learned in med school. The other 25 years are due to things that we have government for to help us solve collectively.
Yeah.
It started out with clean water, safe food, sewage systems that work, child labor laws, traffic safety laws. The list goes on and on, education, all these things. We have this thing that solves problems that we can't solve on our own. And we want it. I'm not a big lover of bureaucracy.
Right.
I'm really not. But we want a modern, talented, agile government that can actually solve the problems of our everyday lives. That's what we have it for. It's not some deep, dark state. The dark state is actually what I think I see happening right now.
Yeah.
Using government to profit yourself, to do something for your own good instead of the good of the people. The way you solve problems is you put those hard cards on the table and then you get everyone around the table that you need. Housing's a hard problem. If it could be solved already, it would have been done. We need people who are committed to getting different ideas around a table, argue, have hard conversations, try something, have an idea. We used to do that in the 90s. I worked as an advocate for Children's Hospital and child advocacy in the 90s. I'm almost 60 years old. And I remember working with Betty Montgomery and Joanne Davidson and hammering out issues that actually impacted people's lives. And what happened was something was better as a result of it. And that actually something got done for the people. That is not what is happening now.
Right, because you were sharing a collective goal.
Yes.
I've heard you refer to yourself as the Ted Lasso of
Lasso of Politics.
politics.
Yes,
So
I am
who are your
that.
diamond dogs then? Like who do you have your core group of people? I mean, some of them are probably here in studio with us today, where you sit down and you beat stuff up.
There's no happier place for me than actually solving the problems that make people's lives better. And the thing is, it's a complicated world. A lot of people ask when I'm running for governor, you run on 3 issues. And I'm thinking to myself, I've worked alongside governors and you solve a different issue every hour, to be honest. And, it's a very vast enterprise. It's 54,000 employees, endless cabinets, boards and commissions that many of us in Ohio, people of Ohio get to sit on these boards and commissions. It's a massive enterprise that keeps us well and safe, and it's a governor's job to do that. And you're constantly looking for the best talented people with the best information. And governor is a massive convener. You catalyze things alongside business and academia and, all the hospitals and the philanthropies and everything. You have to bring all of those sectors around the table with the goal of making all of our lives better so that every one of us has the opportunity to reach our full potential. That's the mission statement. And you can't do that alone. There's no one person that comes and saves us all. And maybe that's another problem we're facing right now in sort of the media environment we're in. What you need are good leaders who know how to set these North Stars we can all aim at, like I did in COVID, and that can gather people around the table and inspire others to come serve.
Right. Well, I think what we need is people who go into public service, remembering the second part of that title, which is, as a good leader, you are a servant to the people. Like, you're actually bottom of the totem pole if you're a very good leader. Anybody who's led in business or anything else, it's about making sure you are enabling and empowering the people around you to do the best thing that they can do. And you are the one keeping your eye on that, like you said, that North Star.
That North Star.
But I don't think a lot of people go into it, obviously, for the right reasons. And one of the questions I wanted to ask was, just on your personal opinion, do you think that some of these people, like the householders, right? Do you think that they at one point went into it like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with high ideals? Do you think they had that? Or do you really think that they always went after the power grab?
I think there are as many types of people that go into it, but I can tell you, I'll work with anyone who wants to solve problems. So, even when I was being impeached and we were being impeached at one point by the legislature, by elements in the legislature.
Because you're saving lives. And
because we were
that's not
focused on, doing everything we could to save Ohio's lives and get back to life as soon as possible. Literally, I got flowers from people on the other side of the aisle that were a part of the group that was impeaching because I had worked with them on issues they actually cared about. There's no one, almost hardly anyone. I worked with the president on issues. I worked, we had uranium leaking in Piketon, Ohio, and I worked with the White House on that. The Department of Energy. I worked on hospital system that had Legionella in it. I've worked on so many issues, but these legislators, they care. Some of them still very much care about lead poisoning in the pipes in their community or how their nursing homes are keeping people safe. But the bottom line is there are special interests and bad actors right now that are funneling money and playbooks into these state houses. The reason I joke about being Ted Lasso of state houses, I went in thinking, everyone, we are all friends. But I hadn't realized that this new thing had taken place where state houses are being held hostage because most of us aren't paying any attention to who's in there. We know what's going on federally. Let's just face it. We can name who's doing something locally, but can you name the people that work for you in the state house? And so little by little, state houses became this place where very special interests with lots of money put playbooks on women's rights. That's how it all happened. They went through state houses to make that happen. Right now, a guy named Yoss just gave $10 million to a PAC of my opponent to end public schools as we know it. This is going on in state houses all over the country, but these legislators are getting this money, and then you layer on what you brought up earlier, gerrymandering. Now, I worked with Maureen O'Connor in a bipartisan business group to end gerrymandering as we know it. Gerrymandering means that the people there no longer report to us, and they actually report to these special interests. And we had a great bipartisan want to end gerrymandering. The people of Ohio wanted to end it. And it was a lawless rewriting of the ballot language. In my opinion, that was horrible to purposely confuse voters. We've got to go after that again. That's essential to getting our state back. We'll go after it in 27. If not, I'll go after it in 30 in the regular process.
If you look at the Ohio map that they keep presenting that even got knocked down by the higher courts, it looks like one of those new digital mosaics of camouflage. Like it is, like we can get 6 people from this farm over here and pull them into this. And Ohio is they, because right now in the news, it's really big talking about Florida and Texas.
Yeah.
But Ohio's gerrymandering has been terrible.
Absolutely. And we no longer represent the true, Ohio has always been a very purple state in some ways. Where I grew up
voted Obama.
Yeah, we vote in Youngstown. It went Obama twice. It went Trump twice. I would say that's because people are looking for change.
Yeah.
And they want to see something change that isn't changing in their lives. And I would say to them, what's going on at our state house is actually the thing. If everything went the way you dream of in the presidential, if it went until we fix this state house, it never gets any better for Ohio because so much of what actually impacts our life is happening there. And as I said, it's keeping the leaders at the local level from feeling like they can get anything done. The state should be helping empower local communities to lead their communities. My job is to make it easier for them, not to make them just pray that nothing worse happens, that the National Guard is not coming into our town. And that's so. But this gerrymandering, it's so important to understand. I do think there are good people, I think, that went into this, but they need to take a stand now.
Yeah.
It is time that we all cannot afford to look the other way. And I think a lot of folks want to hold on to their seats once they get them. And
not just looking the other way, but I think there's a mentality of, what can I possibly do? So like, I admit that this isn't great, but I can't make enough change. And one single person can make that change. And it takes that one brave soul to stand up and say, you know what? Right is right and wrong is wrong. I'm not going to be okay with this anymore. And if it costs me my seat, it costs me my seat.
I feel like in that sense, I feel a little bit this way. There's no one person, even a person running for governor, that's going to end all this.
No.
One of the reasons I'm going everywhere and listening deeply is because what we're seeing is a movement of the people. The only way this has ever ended, whether it's the 1930s or the 1870s, whenever there's power differentials of this sort that we're seeing now, democracy really is at an inflection point. In fact, there was a bipartisan look at our democracy that came out in 2020, got lost under all we were going through.
Yeah.
It was called Our Common Purpose. I really, really recommend people take a look at it. But there is large consensus that we're living through what is looking like a fourth founding of our country right now. There was the beginning, there was Reconstruction, Civil Rights era. These times of inflection, what we really need, and the only thing that ever ends when especially power people are trying to take over the functions of our democracy, is when the people push back.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it everywhere I go. Everyone is feeling the impact of cost. It goes from gas to groceries. It is absolutely childcare and housing. It's all these things. And these Medicaid cuts are already affecting people. The cuts to government workers are being felt everywhere.
Yeah.
Many counties' government is the largest employer. The effects on soybeans and things that are going on for farmers right now. Nurses and doctors are organizing. Teachers are organizing everywhere. The thing that is going to end this and make this start working for us again is that we, in this election, finally find one another and push back together.
So this is my theory. It's a casual theory that the people who've experienced the most amount of hardships and trauma often are the ones who end up being the most enlightened, the most encouraging, the most innovative. And I want to spend just a few minutes talking about your childhood. I think because the way you present and the way you speak, and you kept talking about compassion and kindness and empathy when you spoke at the event we were at. And I think that comes from a place of being without it and seeing how bad it can look. And I think that, of course it's a spectrum like everything else, but I feel like if you come from a place where maybe you didn't get enough love, or maybe you didn't have the kind of resources you need, you either become somebody who goes, I'm going to find what I can get and I don't care about anybody else, or you go, I don't want anyone else to have to go through that. I want people to feel loved, and though their fellow human has empathy for them. So your childhood, can you speak a little bit to that?
I often say when I talk about my childhood that in any room, and we were in a room of about 100 and some people, I think, I know when I'm saying this story that I'm not the only one in the room by far.
Right.
And I can be so guaranteed of that because in many places, up to 50% of our kids are living in poverty, even higher in some areas of this state. And all of us end up going through a thing or two in our lives. Nobody gets out of this thing unscathed. But yes, I saw a lot as a child. I know what it feels like to be hungry and wait in line for food. I know what it's like to not know where I'm going to sleep, or if bills are going to get paid, or if we're going to be kicked out. And ultimately, I slept in a tent in the winter in Northeast Ohio in Youngstown. So, and that never leaves you. I think some of my greatest strengths come from that.
Sure.
But you're also haunted, and I was very much haunted. I moved a mile away from where I had been, but I stayed in one school the next 6 years. I was able to get in a BSMD accelerated 6-year med school here in Ohio. My life got a lot better, and we don't get to pick the circumstances of our birth. We don't get to pick these things, right? So I was very haunted by the kids I left behind, old friends who I tried to stay in touch with, and I'd watch as our lives went completely different ways. They were just as nice and just as smart as the kids at my new school, but you see, and what I learned and what my field has taught me is that your zip code can predict on average how long you will live and what kind of life you will have, so much more than your genetic code or anything I learned in med school. And it is these community conditions that surround us that either lift us up or bring us down. And, I'm still a person aspiring to a world. We have so much in this world that it's hard. It's a travesty that more of us can't access more good things. And that's what I see. My opponent that I'm running against, Vivek Ramaswamy, keeps talking about, people are being lazy or mediocre. They're not working hard enough was one of his big statements. And that it hurts me to hear that when I know, both as a doctor seeing patients my whole life, being out there working with people, now being around Ohio listening, hearing these stories of people doing everything. I was just in Claremont County at an event in Bethel, and a mom was standing there, and she was telling me, they cut the kindergarten program at her school, so she's looking to find, it costs $5,000 to find a program, but she's got to get her kid in so she can work. And we all know we want our kids in kindergarten because that determines outcomes for reading later on and all this stuff. But she's trying to get that. She had twins, so she had a lot of medical bills from that and issues her children had had. So she's on this payment plan for her healthcare bills, trying not to go bankrupt. And she's working hard, and she's like an amazing person who's doing everything right. It's just not adding up. And I hear these kinds of stories everywhere I go. So for me, I think I can relate to that a lot more.
Absolutely.
Than a lot more than a guy who's flying over Ohio like it's a flyover state in his jet. He can't even drive 90 minutes in his car to get down 71. But
I will not put words
I don't think he can relate as much.
I won't put words in your mouth. These are my opinions. He is my least favorite supervillain that exists. And he was a hedge fund guy and a pharmatech bro, and maybe as a child, I don't know that much about his childhood, but it's easy to say that with cognitive dissonance when you haven't had to live through those types of things. I've even, just people in my circles, I've had people go, well, they can raise the minimum wage, but should somebody flipping burgers make $15 an hour? And I'm like, let's do the math of what that adds up to. Yeah. And I'm like, you think that there are jobs and roles that aren't worthy of living a life with dignity without being able to keep a roof over your head and put food on the table? Is there a job that you should spend 40 plus hours a week doing where you don't get the basic amenities of life? Right.
Where we see elderly folks out there. Some people want to be working and doing something, but you see people who are trying to have a place to live. Yeah. And again, I think there are so many things that we know how to solve in this country and in the state. We've solved them before. We used to be one of the healthiest states in this country. We now live shorter, less healthy lives than neighboring states and many countries in this world. That is not normal. There are governors on both sides of the aisle doing things to help our healthcare system, Medicaid cuts are crushing us. There are kids who are in foster care and others being thrown off Medicaid right now. There are people who have children with disabilities, who have kids in group homes and who are aging and wondering if that group home will still be covered.
Right.
Like these are things we know how to solve. We've solved them already. We used to be one of the best educated states in this country. We're always at the forefront. Our educational outcomes are plummeting. We're attacking public schools. My opponent has said he will end teachers' unions as we know it. This state legislature literally kicked teachers off their own pension board. They have an asset, $90 billion of retirement that they earned, but they can't have any say on because they want to privatize it for some hedge fundy equity group to have a say over. And the police and fire, they know they're next. They know they're coming after them next.
Our current governor, he went to Washington to be there and celebrate when they signed the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education.
Yeah.
And that had to be really disheartening to watch because I know that you worked really closely with DeWine. And I do think for every time he does something like that makes me go, we'll send our National Guard troops to D.C.
Yeah.
But he'll turn around and like when he stood up for you, that was great. When they were saying stuff about Haitians, people outside of Ohio might not know, they were talking about a town in Ohio where they were saying they're eating our pets.
Yes.
There was something nice to watch the non-Haitian people of that community, though, stand up for the other ones.
And that's what it is, I think. And it was the people of Springfield standing up together. You know, I can't speak. You were asking about Governor DeWine. Look, he and I don't agree on every issue. We never did. He knew exactly who I was when he hired me. But what I can tell you is this. I'll work with anyone who wants to solve problems.
Sure.
What I learned watching a governor, you know, people have been asking me, would I do this or that differently? Absolutely, there are things I would do differently. But one of the things I also learned in COVID that sometimes some of these governors are doing things because this president will literally withhold supplies and things your state needs. And so I can't speak to what he did in that circumstance or what he was weighing, but I can tell you I'm focused on what a governor does going forward and how we build this state back. We actually go after gerrymandering.
Yeah.
We actually get more House members in so that a veto, if I do a veto, it can't be overrode. I'm thinking about who's on these boards and commissions that have been deeply, deeply stacked in very extreme ways against Ohioans.
So if you're in the governor's office and the president sends a really fun executive order that you wholeheartedly disagree with, you'll stand up to him.
Governors on both sides of the aisle are standing up. And obviously, you have to get along with people, you know, even when you don't agree. I've worked with this president on things to solve problems. I've worked with this legislature. As governor, I know that's what I'm going to have to do. But if something is threatening this state, I'll have to stand up. And I'd love to have a great attorney general with me to do it and a great secretary of state.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Because we need to stand up for what's right for our people.
Especially if he retaliates, like what we've seen with California and other states where he's threatening to take away funding and tax dollars and things like that.
I talk a lot about building a movement here for this election, you know, movement of people. We were so thrilled. We had a record number of donors in the first 2 quarters of our fundraising in this race. We had more donors than most people ever see running statewide. It was people, ordinary people all over this state. Every county gave money, and it was like the average gift size was like $24, you know? So I'm up against this billionaire with the people pushing back. But I want people to know that the people can beat a billionaire. They absolutely can.
And you broke records like crazy, especially at the beginning.
Exactly. We've been setting, every quarter we've set a record for Democratic candidates. I started with nothing. You know, I'm a doctor, not a politician, but I have been a lifelong public servant. So I didn't come in with some war chest, but literally the people are ready to roll together. But the reason I need the movement, even more than running for office, is to govern.
Right.
I need people even more when I govern. We have a lot of work to do. I'm doing a massive call to public service in this. When something goes wrong, like in East Palestine, I need to have relationships that I can literally pick up the phone and call someone on the ground and say, what exactly are you seeing there? I can't say enough. It is the power of the people versus this extreme power, special interests, and wealth that has a lot of ideas of how they want to use the levers of government and to use the money that we all provide in ways that, frankly, aren't serving us. And we need a beginning. I'm running because I can't look the other way, but I need all of us to link arms and push back together.
Let's talk about your opponent for a second.
Yeah.
So have you met him in person? Have you gotten a chance to meet him?
I have not. I know him through what the things he stands for, what
Yeah.
he believes, the policies he has promoted.
What he believes on that day. Because when he first started into politics, and as we're talking about what drives you into leadership, I cannot imagine he's the type who's looking for servant leadership. I think I've tackled the business world. I think I can tackle this. He came out, he sounded somewhat relatable at the beginning. He was very critical of Trump. He was very much all for releasing the Epstein files and getting to the bottom of this.
Yeah,
and he has since
big issue for
gone
me.
into hiding, I think, on both those issues.
Yeah, I would say this. I very much look forward to meeting my opponent. I very much look forward to debating Mr. Ramaswamy, but we differ on a lot of things. And one of the things we really differ on, just an example recently, is the Epstein files. You know, I had this childhood where I experienced abuse and neglect and all of these things. And my life has been fighting to protect people from predators and others who do these sorts of things. Vivek agreed with that originally. He ran for president on it. I don't know. I'd have to ask Maggie, we must be about 70 some days now of reporters trying to get him to come out. We simply came out and asked him, would you join us in what you said before in transparency and helping protect these victims? We were literally thrown off the X platform. We were censored, it appears, just for asking that simple question.
I thought that was we talk about locking arms and being able to agree on the problems and the things we want to fix. I can't be the only one who thought that was the bar. Yeah. That was the line. When it comes to sex trafficking and the abuse of power, and especially...
Look, I've worked with people on both sides of the aisle on this. We're very committed, actually, in the state legislature, very committed against that. And I think, it's these discrepancies that we keep seeing over and over again that cause a person to question, is someone really, really saying what they really believe, or is this the next move for some sort of next power grab?
Yeah.
And we know from our opponent, had his business here in Ohio and he moved it. We know that he was very much involved in what looks like a pump and dump scheme, that there's been a lot written about that, is how he made his money. What I most worry about, though, is will he understand the actual needs of Ohioans? Like, is he really understanding this? Like, his answer early on was, let's eliminate all property taxes. Yes, property taxes are high. That is one of the most reckless answers a person could come up with. And any person in government and any elected official on either side of the aisle winced hearing that, because, we do need to do something about property taxes, but property taxes are going up because of failed policies at a state house that he agrees with, my opponent. Failed policies. They have not funded the local government fund, has been cut for years, that actually empowers communities. So we're seeing these other taxes go up because they're not doing their job at the state house. We do need to do a comprehensive overlook of our entire tax policy. We had to do this famously in the 70s. We have to do it again. That will be one of the first things I'll be working on, because we need reasonable tax policy. If you don't want fire, if you don't want police, if you don't want teachers, then eliminate all property taxes.
It's such an unrealistic claim. And to me, that was the first sign of this person has no idea what they're talking about when it comes to politics and policy.
He talks a lot about violence, and he's doing a lot to stoke up fears around violence.
Yeah.
People are concerned about feeling safe in their community. I am absolutely concerned about that too. But the way to do that is fund the local fund. Actually fund police who right now aren't getting enough money. They can't get enough recruits in. They can't get the training funds they need from this state house and this legislature. Fund the police and we'll be safer in communities. But I'm working to protect us against a legislature and an opponent who literally have policies that undermine the very people trying to keep our communities safe.
So in the run for governor, he might be the final boss, but you might have another mid-level boss you have to defeat. So Tim Ryan, people have been keeping an eye on him for a while because the people in his circle keep making mentions that he might run. For those who don't know, he was a former state rep.
From my area.
From your area, right?
He's from Trumbull,
Yeah. So what are your thoughts or concerns about if he enters the race?
Well, I always say to folks, I can't tell you what Tim Ryan is going to do. You'd have to ask him himself. What I can tell you is that I've been on the road for almost 2 years. I've been running for governor for 9 months now, and I'm thrilled by the response we're getting. We're seeing record crowds everywhere we go. It doesn't know party. We're seeing a record number of donors, and it's coming from every part of the state. We've had over 200 and growing endorsements every day. Former governors, Dick Celeste, former Governor Celeste, endorsed us. Former Governor Ted Strickland has said that I would make the best governor. Very proud to have received Connie Schultz's endorsement. And we're getting legislatures. Even on the other side, Jim Petro came out and endorsed us, Republican, and that's growing by the day. I hope what I'm seeing is that people trust me. They see the work that we're putting in on the ground. There's not enough hours in the day for what we need to be doing to pull the people of this state together. I'm very, very focused on being governor. I'm very, very focused on fighting my opponent, Mr. Ramaswamy.
If you had to pick one issue that you believe is the most critical issue that you would have to tackle. And I realize, like you said, you're going to be wearing 100 hats and tackling 1,000 issues a week. But if you had to stand on one issue that you think is the most crucial or at least the most urgent, what would that be?
Well, right now, and it's hard to say it as one issue, but costs are by and far the biggest issue Ohioans want to see tackled. Affordability. And there's a lot a governor could do about it beyond just pushing back on things that are happening to support our hospitals and our schools. You know, there's a lot governors can do through wage theft. A lot of people don't think right now our unions, collective bargaining is really under attack in the state. Like I said, my opponent is super clear that he wants to end unions for the teachers as we know it. And it's steps that they're taking, toward collective bargaining. We know it's police and fire next. Lowering the cost of prescription drugs is a big thing governors on both sides of the aisle are doing. Lowering a cost that's near and dear to my heart. I talked to superintendents all over this state. I said, let's make it a given that we stop doing all the bad things that are happening to your schools right now in public schools. What's the one thing a governor could do that all of you want? And on both sides of the aisle, to a person, they said, free and reduced lunch for kids.
Wow.
Literally, kids getting enough to eat and coming to school healthy enough. Like I said, there are enough kids struggling in this state, sadly.
Yeah.
That something as simple as that is very cost effective, isn't that expensive on the scale of the things like $600 million to sports stadiums is expensive. These are things a governor could do right away to make a difference. And the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
So affordability, dealing with the corruption, I'm doing a massive call to service. Lawyers everywhere, I'm saying, come join us. It's lawless, frankly, right now, what's going on. It's going to take a lot of us to turn that around. I care very deeply about our schools. Schools and libraries saved my life as a kid. Right now, I fear that every kid like me doesn't get the same chances, and it's going to get worse if we don't do something about that. I want our people healthy. I want affordable housing. I want childcare. I'm very, very interested in looking deeply into preschool for everyone. I'm very much a fan of that. I'm very much interested in the Earned Income Child Tax Credit. It's worked everywhere. It works swimmingly for all people in Ohio. I think everyone would benefit. I want people to age in place with dignity. We have a lot of buying power as the state, and I want to make sure that when we insure people, we make sure that they can get home health care instead of having to go live somewhere else. I want them to be able to age in place with dignity, and I definitely want those taxes to be taking care of the homestead exemption and other things.
And the kid thing, I mean, you're talking about this inflection point. I mean, that's the only way that we fix the place that we're at.
Yeah.
I think a good education, but with, like you said, with that transparency.
Yes.
Because people trying to whitewash history and where we've been.
Right.
If you don't look at where we've been, you are doomed to repeat those same things over and over. And when you have somebody running for governor who says, I don't care about the past corruption, it's like, then we've learned nothing. Yeah. Then we're just going to end up back in that cycle. I think
quite frankly, some of what is happening with charter schools right now, with vouchers, without it being transparent, without us having the same accountability. You remember CoinGate, you remember ECOT. We've had this series. We're the whole lineup of HBO Max right now with our scandals in Ohio. So you want to pretend this is not happening here. But I can tell you this, no one in the state will ever, ever be invisible to me. I just can't say that enough. My entire career, I'm almost 60 years old. I've been fighting these battles my whole life to make life better, ordinary life better for us. And so that we can be healthy, that we can be well, that we can have a job. I'm always going to be fighting for labor. People need to know that. My husband's a 43-year elementary school, public school teacher and a coach. He teaches at the same school he went to since he was 4. His mom still lives down the street. These things give us a path to a middle-class life, a path to a stable home. These are the things that allow. And when we flourish, quite frankly, then we give our gifts back. And that is a spiral up. Right now, Ohio is spiraling down on every measure. That is not who we should be. It is not our destiny. We can actually dream of nice things in this state. We could actually spend time not only solving problems, but we could do things like be the largest integrated park system in the country. That sounds like, how could you do that? We don't see ourselves that way. It's a huge economic driver in places that harness their natural environment, that they have the chance for recreation, sporting. We literally have our river is now a designated national water trail. We've been cleaning up our rivers. We've been getting dams out of the rivers. You can put a kayak in Columbus and go all the way to the Mississippi. The Great Lake is cleaning up. Our bike trails are connecting. The one area we do very well in this state is our state parks. We have been very bold, and we have to fight to keep them free to all Ohioans. There are people who would charge for parks. We will not do that. We have to keep them being all they can be. We literally can dream of a quality of life that we all deserve, where we're the healthiest again, where we have world-class education and workforce training for everyone in this state, where we can find that job and buy that house and age here and do it all with dignity. And that's the work I am honored and privileged to have done, and that I want to do again for Ohioans.
Thank you for sharing that. Last question. This is a softball question. You go from COVID to now this. Your life seems very high stress. What do you do to take care of Dr. Acton? What is your go-to self-care or a hobby or something that you do? Like, I'd love to help people and serve people. I wouldn't last 2 days in your shoes.
I can tell you, I didn't know the governor, and I ended up feeling so moved by something that I took a job. I didn't spend my life plotting my climb in a sense to being a governor, but I can't look the other way right now. I would do just about anything to turn this ship around. I've just seen under the hood of this state what is happening in this country. I have a constituency that goes from the far right to the far left and everything in between. I've been given a voice because I bonded during COVID in a way that is bigger than politics. There are people that are MAGA that hate vaccines but give me a break.
Yeah.
And it's because I went on conservative talk show radio and it was doing everything I could to save lives. And they kind of sense that. I've been given the chance that many people would never have to do something about it. And that's kind of what's compelling me right now. And yes, the self-care thing maybe isn't at its peak right now. In normal times, I'm actually a very quiet person. I love to read. Books saved my life as a kid. There was a period when my brother and I were in a basement, dark basement, a sump pump, a light, and 2 twin beds. But we would bring a book home and we would read, each of us every night. And I knew life could be better. So I still find great solace in reading. I love to garden. I love to be outdoors. I love to hike, love to fish. Love to do very quiet outdoor things. That is not what I'm doing right now.
You picked the wrong profession.
I think when I'm governor, I get to go on the fishing day on Lake Erie, so I'll get to do it. But I love yoga and things like that, like things that are reflective. Right now, I'm getting help I sleep enough. My husband is amazing. I have great friends. You're nodding because I have people here. My husband's best friend's driving me so that I can keep doing work and making phone calls and keep going and making sure that I'm getting enough sleep.
You got your diamond dogs.
I got my diamond dogs, and we're Ted Lasso, and we absolutely believe that I thought if I come out here, just, dear God, I'm going to file this paperwork, and I'm going to look back here, and I'm not going to be alone. And we haven't been alone every step of the way. We've been met by so many amazing people, and it's actually a privilege. And I figure, I'm almost 60. I hope I have enough time left some other day to keep doing all that. But I think it just feels like it's been my lot in life. And I saw something again I can't unsee. And I would just say to people that are listening to you, you don't have to do this. You don't even have to be about me. But if there's something right now in your life that you can't unsee and it grabs your heart, the courage to make some move on something is when your heart gets grabbed by something. Could be that stray dog you see walking down the street that you like, oh my God, I don't need another dog right now. But I saw the dog. Yeah, that's your call that you got to go. Yeah. And whatever it is right now, grab a few people to do it with us, because the biggest thing I want to say to everyone is, there are people trying to buy our state, and I'm going to be telling Mr. Ramaswamy, you can't buy this state. You can't buy Ohio. We are being pitted against one another, and the only way out of this is don't give up on one another. Those family members who don't see what you see, I can't say enough. Whatever you can do, grab some people to go with you, because we need relationships right now. We're hardwired for it. The last Surgeon General literally said that the biggest epidemic underlying everything right now and allowing for these things to take hold is how isolated and alone we all are.
Yeah.
There's great data. There's like 20-some years of data in every country on this. People are exhausted. The chaos and the hate and the vitriol, everywhere I go, people are exhausted on both sides of the aisle. The way out of this is to not look the other way at those things that move you and grab some people and do it with them.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, you are a person we've talked about on the show multiple times because we were really impressed with how things went.
Thank you.
I know that you have to get going, but is there any last thought that you wanted to share?
I just want to say, in times like this where there is that media environment, break away from it. Go for that walk. Go hang out with some friends at a coffee shop. Do anything that puts you back with people again. The people of this state are good. During COVID, people talk about the hate. It's making me tear up. The people of this state, if enough of us do the right thing most of the time, we all get through it. Yep. We just need enough of us. And I can tell you, in COVID, the love was greater than the hate. No matter how loud this hate is or how much media empires tout it to keep our attention grabbed, when you're on the ground with real Ohioans listening every day as I am, the love is greater than the hate. Don't give up.
Thank you so much. Act on your values and don't forget to vote. That is one of those things that we take for granted sometimes, that we live in a democracy and we have these amazing rights. So use your voice, especially at the polls next year. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. And we will make sure to share all of the URLs and all the places they can go to help with your campaign and follow what you're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Visit actonforgovernor.com. That's ACTON for governor.com, where you can follow the campaign, get involved, donate, and gear up on all the Dr. Amy Acton for Governor swag and apparel.
We're gonna do it. Give us any cure, we'll take it. Offer us your hand, we'll shake it. We're gonna make those things.
We just went there. Now you can go to thegoingtherepodcast.com for links to all the podcast platforms, our socials, and of course, YouTube. While you're at it, give us a rating, share with a friend, and subscribe.
This podcast is brought to you in part by its host and Frame One Media, in association with Kaylee Williams, Joe Calley, and Bobby Thomas.